I'm glad you didn't die." The words were spoken softly and without a hint of humor. They were followed by a loud sniff and my little brother trying to subtly wipe at his eyes so I wouldn't notice the fact he was fighting back tears. He was serious. He said the same words to me every single time I came back from a deployment, no matter what condition I returned in. And he always cried, which meant I always had to fight back tears of my own. I hooked an arm around Gael's neck and rubbed the knuckles of my free hand against the top of his head, clearing my throat so I could speak through the emotion caught there. "Me too, kid. I told you I would be back in one piece. You know I always keep my word." I wasn't a guy who made promises I couldn't keep, and I refused to let my baby brother down. Everything I did, every choice I made, both good and bad, were so that Gael could have a better life, so he could do more, be more, and live beyond the means I'd always felt held me back when I was his age. Promising him over and over again nothing would happen to me while I was deployed to some of the most dangerous places in the world was the only time I made a vow knowing I might not be able to come through in the end. But the words made us feel better, even if we both recognized how empty and useless they were at the end of the day. I was lucky homecoming coincided with Gael's first summer break from college. I'd spent 9 months living in an emotional kaleidoscope of fear, anger, boredom, and regret. Seeing my baby brother struggling to look tough and keep his tears in check instantly launched me back into protective big brother mode and sent me crashing back to reality. I was no longer just a soldier, a cog in the machine of war. Now, seeing Gael instantly forced all the feelings I'd purposely locked down and hid away when I had a job to do, back to the surface, far earlier than I was ready for. I left my truck with him when I left for the desert, and he'd surprise me by driving halfway across the country and meeting me as soon as my boots were back on Colorado soil. This wasn't my first or last deployment, but it was the first time I'd ever come back and had someone I loved waiting for me. I purposely kept my ties to others minimal and loose. I didn't want anyone waiting around, living half a life while I was in some godforsaken place, dodging bullets and doing things I couldn't talk about. I usually even encouraged my brother and my grandmother, the only family I had, to give me a few weeks to decompress and shift out of survival mode before coming to visit me, or before I would make the trip home after a deployment. Gael showing up unannounced was one more reminder my little brother wasn't exactly so little anymore. In fact, he seemed to have grown a couple of inches while I was away. He almost met me eye to eye now, and since we were on the same level, there was no missing the exhaustion and worry coloring his watery gaze.